Hello and welcome to the OMO Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And, yeah, it's going to be Batman Day, so we're going to go as Batman-y as possible. Going back with a classic Batman film that's almost kind of like a lost Batman movie. Batman, the Mystery of Batwoman. And then, I guess since it is Batman Day, we're going to, for those handful of fans out there that have been around with us for those many years, we don't like to say a number because that could make us all sound old, but we're deciding we're going to finally finish up our drunk Batman. You know, I feel if there's a point to announce this, it's like, hey, you know, after many a years, Batman Day comes. Oh shit, drunk Batman? They're doing episode 10? Because I always just feel we always get so many, like, comments and stuff throughout the time. It was like, dude, when are you gonna do fucking Batman 10? Come on, like, Batman 10. Like, when's it gonna happen? So I think now it's like, well, this one's like, you know what? We'll finally sit down, and it might slowly take its time, but we're gonna come out with a Batman 10, a conclusion to that arc.
And to be fair, I'll say, to me, I always assume people, like, you know, I figure people probably cared for the first year or so. After that, I'm like, no, I don't give a shit anymore. Then I see it pop up every so often, like you said. And then I'm like, well, to be fair, I guess even if they thought it sucks, we did leave it on the biggest cliffhanger possible. Like, oh, yeah, like, fucking Batman and Robin split up. Fucking Jason Todd is captured. Robin is going solo. You know, Nightwing. Spoilers. I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious. And then, like, you know, fucking Darkseid is coming in. So it's just like, oh, I guess we did pick the... And then the next episode doesn't even pick up from that. Like, you know, let's give a moment for Batman to get, like, a real somewhat emotional but still funny kind of thing. And then, like, oh yeah, we still don't come to answer Darkseid. And Deathstroke. We bring in Deathstroke, too. And he's just there for the beginning of that episode, and we don't come back to it. But I just want to give people a heads up. Both of our art style has gotten better since then. So that's one thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, but, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know what? If we sit down and kind of chug away at it in the background and so on, and yeah, it's coming. So that's a little sneak peek. So if anybody cares about Drunk Batman, you know, there's new Drunk Batman coming out. But on this glorious Batman Day, as I said, we're going back with a classic, almost it's technically a proto DCU of like what you think of like the modern kind of era of these animated flicks. Like, this is the ones that, like, there's about 5 of them or so that kind of came out between, like, you know, 1992, like Mask of the Phantasm, till before, like, I guess Superman Doomsday came out. There's not that many of them in a sense, but, like, they made some really fucking amazing films, and it's kind of interesting because it's like the ones they sort of made too. I mean, they're, you know, it's like, I guess their audience was like the WB kids is who they're sort of shooting for. So it's kind of like in that weird one where, like, you know, nowadays they know it's like, hey, we're making it for like our 35-year-old give or take audience. That's the target audience of the DCU movies. Where this one, it's like, you think about it, like, hey, you're gonna have this real kind of like deeper Batman like story, but how could you sell it with that frog on WB?
Well, that's the thing about it, because I mean, I don't want to sound like this sounds like a total like fanboy excuse, but like Batman the Animated Universe got canceled because it was too good. But I mean, it kind of was the case, because I know it sounds like a dumb excuse, but basically all the network said bring in more kids from like 5 to 10. But then, you know, people watching it usually weren't kids, because let's be honest, the story got a little dark, a little bit more serious, and kind of like hard to follow for some kids. It kind of was more like teenagers to people in their early 20s at the time. So, and so no one was buying the toys.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of that funny thing where it's just like, well, it's like those ones, I guess not enough people were buying toys, because here's the thing, I bought the toys, you bought the toys.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
I know quite a bit of people bought the toys, but for some, I think what it was Pokemon, even though I want to say that animation style still changed before that, but almost like those anime shows that came out, like, you know, Pokemon's there, but there's technically stuff before it, like Sailor Moon and all that other kind of stuff that, like, really hit hard to the 10-year-old audience. And I think that's what they started seeing that Japanese creep in, and they're like, shit, we got to make sure we get that Japanese audience. We got to get that hardcore 10-year-old audience. Fuck those older guys. What about those kids that are, like, turning 14 now? Fuck them. They're too old now.
Well, it's funny when you say you see that Japanese creeping, like, just see like a Japanese businessman slowly sneaking in through the window. Like the way
He's got like some fucking got like a storyboard under his arm. Like, what's he doing?
Like a big,
he slid that in over. He slid that over Bugs Bunny.
He has a big like Santa Claus sack of Gundams and Pokemon cards. Yeah,
just swapping stuff out. You know what I mean? He's over at Marvel next. He's like pulling out the X-Men, pulling out the Spider-Man, slipping into Dragon Ball Z and so on, just spreading Christmas cheer.
They're in the middle of a meeting and they all see him. They don't say nothing. They're just slowly watching him. He's looking at him back because he's like takes off like a Spider-Man poster and puts up a wall scroll of Gundam. Walks over to like, you know, a Doctor Strange statue. Moves out of the way. Puts like a Hamtaro stuffed animal or some shit.
Yeah, totally.
And just slowly leaves the room. Like, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing now. All right. No, but I mean, to be fair, you said the whole, because, yeah, they were trying to go the whole Pokemon thing, because Bruce Timm even said, like, yeah, Warner Brothers wanted us to do an earlier version of Batman Beyond wasn't what we had. They wanted to do Batman in the future, and they said, can you make it more like Pokemon? And the concept we came up with was, it was Gotham City in the far future, and in order to get the mantle of Batman, you had to go into these fighting tournaments. And there you would have, and whoever won would become the Batman. And like the ancestor to Bruce Wayne was there, the ancestor to Robin and Batgirl was there, and they are usually fighting off villains that had some kind of distinction or lineage to old villains and whatnot. So he says, and like I remember this was like a Comic-Con thing. He was saying this in the background. You hear some guy say, "You suck," and like Bruce Timm's like, "I didn't fucking make it."
What if instead they're just like, they went real, like, almost like dark with it, where it's just like fucking Batman and Robin are just capturing villains, and then they go to this weird, like, island, almost like Enter the Dragon, but like, they bring out their villains, and they're all like on fucking chains and so on. They have them fight to the death. Just like, take bets. Whoa, what the shit? Like, well, I always wanted to see Batman kill, and I know Batman can't kill, but he can force somebody else to kill, is what we said was okay. the board meeting.
Here, it's funny, the thing about Bruce Timm. We'll actually get to this main movie in a minute, but this does relate. Bruce Timm, like, he's not the only guy who worked on the animated DC universe that went on from like the 90s to the early 2000s and still working on the animated movies. People credit him for creating like their version of Batman, because I think really, in all honesty, even though it's PG, animated Batman is probably one of the best variations of Batman, because it finds that it's emotional enough, it's dark enough, it's serious enough, but still like a kid could watch it really if they wanted to. And it's also like he just has the essence of it. And he's been working on it for so long. He's just like, what if they're assholes? Or what if this one, Batman fucks Batgirl? Or what if, he does whenever he does like these things, people are like, blasphemy, Bruce Timm's lost his mind! Like, well, he's been working on these characters for so long. He's like, let's do something fucked up.
Yeah, I think it's the same way with like Frank Miller. You know what I mean? It's after a while, you're just like, I want to see some fucking weird shit, and I got the power to do it, so I'm gonna do it.
Well, this movie, and this isn't even a huge plot point, it's just kind of this thing they bring around. Because then, even Batman Beyond, there's an episode where they mention that Barbara and Bruce had a relationship. And they just never... I was thinking back on the animated series, I'm like, did they ever have that? And then, watching this movie, and this is, in all honesty, the first time I've seen the movie, because this is one of the ones that got by me, because this is before I got back into DC and comics.
Well, this one is not an easy movie to come across either. Like, it's one of those ones, it took me a while to even get like the Blu-ray of it and so on. It was, it's not a movie that you could just go find at any store.
No, I couldn't even find it on I had to rent it, but on streaming. But I was like, I'm sure the DC Universe app has it. No, it don't. But anyway, there's a scene in this where Barbara and Bruce are talking, and it's like one of the few times you see Batman get awkward around a girl, like, going through the tunnel, bye, static, bye.
Beating the boy, just turns to start slapping Robin across the face.
Damn it, boy, what'd I tell you?
Bruce, you could have just hung the phone up. You didn't have to beat the boy. Oh, sorry, Alfred. It reminds me of my father.
It sneaks out every so often, you know.
Remember,
Tam, you'll never be good enough. You'll never be good enough. Yeah, that's what my dad would say, yeah.
It's like my dad said, I'll never be a doctor, and look at me, I'm not a fucking doctor! It's like, oh god.
Alfred, pull the car over. I see a 31 flavors. I need to eat my feelings. No,
But so, they're
thing
closed.
about-
Not for clothes for Batman.
I always bring my grappling hook with me. No, but
Remember, Tim, it's called the Universal Key. Just pulls out a big old, like, lock breaks.
it's like, well, the thing about that is, so I remember that thing in whatchamacallit, in Batman Beyond, and then they reaffirm it in this, because even though this takes place before this was made like in 2003 or 2004 or something. And I remember there is this panel done in the animated universe that was circling the internet for a while. And I never actually read the comic. But it was like a panel of Barbara saying to Bruce, like, I'm pregnant. He says, like, give my regards to Dick. She's like, it's not his. Then he just pauses.
Yep.
You know? Like, what the fuck is that from? So
Tim! It's not Tim.
Yeah, no, so before going, because I never came across that comic, and it's set in the animated universe, and it's official, apparently. But I was looking, and I just found this quick summary, because I think this is kind of interesting. This shows where, and I don't know who wrote it, if it was Paul Dini or Bruce Timm or someone else. But
it just sounds like, here's this episode that we couldn't do on the show, so we made a comic book about it. Well, what's it about? It's Batman driving around trying to find someone to get an abortion at midnight.
Dr. Midnight!
And actually, there's no Batman in it. It's just a Bruce Wayne and Barbara story, but that's what makes it even funnier. Or not, depending on how you look at it.
Dr. Midnight's like, look, I'm not that kind of doctor. All right, Dr. Fate, me too, same thing.
Is there a damn doctor in the house? Well, yeah, we are doctors. Well, sort of by name.
Zatanna, can you magic this thing away, you know? Technically, let's not lie, it's the dark arts. All this magic comes from Satan, right? Come on, you get off on this.
I'd go after John Constantine, but he's over in England. You know how that gets. She could have this kid by then.
I may have a bat jet, but I'm not, I don't want to fly. I don't want to spend my own gas money in the bat jet for that, and I don't want to use my frequent flyer miles for that shit either, so, anyway, here's what it says. Okay. Batgirl and Nightwing sort of had a relationship, but not really. Anyways, when Dick Grayson left for Bloodhaven, Bruce started a relationship with Barbara. It started developing into something serious. He had sex with her and got her pregnant. At the time, both Bruce and Barbara didn't know Bruce got her pregnant. I think whoever wrote this, English wasn't their first language, but hey, no hate. Anyway, 4 weeks after she's pregnant, Dick Grayson returns to Gotham and starts to have a relationship with Barbara. 3 weeks into the relationship, Nightwing and Batgirl discover she's pregnant for 7 weeks. She tells Batman, then Batman insists that he's the one to tell Dick. He goes to tell Dick, then Dick beats the crap out of him. Meanwhile, Barbara has a miscarriage and the baby dies. That's how the Bat family pretty much broke apart. This all happened in the DC animated universe and does not happen in the comics.
See, but wait, this comes from a comic?
Saturday morning, kids.
This comes from a comic, though, right?
This comes from a comic. I've seen the panel. I've never seen the comic, but I've seen the panel.
We need to track down whatever this one is, because this sounds very interesting.
It sounds very soapy. It sounds like the Batman soap opera, kind of. You know what I mean? Like,
it just sounds way different than like your normal Batman one that I'm very interested in it now.
Yeah.
And then plus if it has that sort of Bruce Timm art. And I always gotta feel bad, because you know that like Bruce Timm always gets his name up there like, Bruce Timm. There's like, 100 guys stand behind him and be like, well, fuck you, I worked on this too. Yeah, but Bruce Timm.
Pretty much, yeah. So that's the thing. I thought that, who knows if Bruce Timm wrote it or not, but if he did write it, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, because he always he likes the ballsy stuff. I feel like it's just the same thing as like Frank Miller, because Frank Miller got to that point where it's just like, I just want to see fucking weird shit after a while.
And the reason I bring that random thing up is because even though it's not a huge plot point, that's referenced kind of in this, because, he's like, hey, Bruce, what are you doing? Oh, nothing, Barbara. Okay, that's all you're in the movie for. Bye. Hangs up. And then, as the movie goes on, it's pretty much it stays, relatively in the PG area, but tiptoeing slightly over every once in a while, because I think that the Batman animated universe always kind of like tested the scales on that just a little bit. They always wanted to see how much they could get away with. They even went as far as they actually did kind of the South Park thing. They would do that thing where they would, because they'd have to submit the script to somebody, and then like, oh no, they're not going to put this in there. So they do the thing where they put incredibly outlandish things they knew that would not make it in there, so they can put in things they really wanted. Like there's one script where Harley Quinn just pushed like a baby carriage into her hyena's like cage, like dinner time, boys. They just start eating out of the fucking baby carriage, So like you can't fucking do that. They did that so they can get away. I think so they can do the rest of what Mad Love was,
Yeah, and that was always kind of like the trick to kind of use to get past, like, if there's something way more extreme, the focus will go there. And the other thing that's kind of interesting in this one too is this was literally like the last hurrah of like I guess you could say the classic Batman style. I mean, I guess now that Batman and Harley Quinn one or whatever is supposed to be in the same kind of universe, but I really do kind of feel like
Justice League versus Fatal 5.
Yeah, well, that's sort of, I guess, in like the Justice League one. I'm just saying the straight Batman section. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's all continued, but just this one right here just feels like almost the end of like the animated series. Like it's almost like the final, section you would put like in your DVD rack if you were lining it up if you want to have it just for that part.
It also it's kind of interesting because it has this what was the example I was going to make? When did Justice League Unlimited end? Was that 2003 or 2004, or did it go on a little longer?
It's about that time period, because 2003, like right when this movie came out, was kind of that period where I think Teen Titans was just about coming out, or was out by that point. Actually, I think it was out by that point, like 2003. I think Justice League Unlimited was kind of getting to the end. It's like this, like, I mean, I know you have Batman Beyond, but it's almost where everything sort of shifts over and leaves that kind of, I guess you would say, our 90s style goodbye.
Yeah, and I guess that was interesting, because like, hey, this is a series that was canceled a long time ago by these standards. It was canceled a while back. It was canceled back in the
97.
90s. Yeah, so like, let's do another Batman animated movie. Fuck it, why not? And then like, this is when he's like this is during Justice League Unlimited. It's like, let's take a break from Justice League, so when he has a day off from the Justice League, he's back in Gotham doing this shit. So that's kind of an interesting thing to go about it. And yeah, this movie, it doesn't really, push the boundaries heavy like other ones, but it's I'm watching it, and spoilers ahead, folks. There's moments where I think like, oh, it's obviously this, but even this movie kind of caught me off guard, like, oh, that's a clever red herring, the way they go about it, because there's a moment where, because I think they know who their audience is by this point, there's a point like, oh, that is so obviously this lady, because they don't know who Batwoman is. She comes in, and it's not Cassandra Cain or whatever. No, not Cassandra. Is that her name?
Cassandra Cain.
I get her mixed up between, because there's Cassandra Cain,
and
who
then
is Isn't there?
Cassandra Cain's the Batwoman with the red hair, and then there's that other Batwoman that's it's like you never see
her. She was like the daughter of Lady Shiva, and she was. I get them mixed up.
Are you talking about like the Batwoman one where she has the full face mask from like
Cassidy Cain? There's like Cassidy Cain and Cassandra Cain. I think Cassidy Cain is the real Batwoman, and Cassandra Cain was Batgirl, and she was like the little Asian kid in Birds of Prey.
Oh yeah, there was that weird one there.
Yeah.
Well, Cain. Cain is the main name I want to say, but
I think they just spell the name differently, and I don't even know if they're related because one's white, one's not. So I don't know what the deal is there. But
yeah.
I mean, how many Harveys? They already have like 2 Harveys in Gotham City. I think they would have name checked that at some point. But yeah.
Yeah, I know that's one of those ones like shit. Like especially at that time period too. It's like at that point it's like you had like 15 characters. What, you run out of names already?
Yeah. So but yeah, because at some point, like, oh, it's obviously this person. And then they bring in a few other characters, like, oh, I guess it could be either one of them. And what they do is clever. And I'm not going to lie, at some point I figured it out. But at the same time, if you're a kid watching this, you'd probably be totally surprised by what ends up being the Batwoman at the end of the day. Because basically, Batwoman's coming in, and Batman's like, this bitch is fucking up my brand. It's like, we don't need another vigilante in this town. This is a town for vigilantes. I like how Alfred even said, like, Alfred's really funny in this movie.
Yeah, he's got some great lines in there.
Like, he even says something like, at some point, one of the ladies he's following, he's like, because, you know, there's basically the three suspects are like a rich lady whose father is a crime lord, a detective, and a inventor, a scientist who just recently got employed by Wayne Tech. And there's enough things there that kind of link. Well, it's got to be one of them, right? And he's following one of them around, the rich girl, Cassidy, I think her name is, or Cassandra. I don't remember. There's so many fucking Cassidys or something like that. It is.
Well, there's Roxanne's the rich one.
Roxanne. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Roxanne. That's right. He's following Roxanne around, and he says, like, she's been driving around all day, and Alfred's like, I know, and not one sale on napalm or explosions. And then the Batman's getting bored. Like, I like because they give Bruce Wayne. I mean, I like stern, focused Bruce Wayne, but I like how in this series they let him be a little bit more of kind of like showing he's getting bored or impatient with things. He's like, you know what, Alfred, I'm gonna go get myself a new watch. He's like, you deserve it, Master Wayne. He's just reading the newspaper.
I just love how like Alfred almost becomes like he like embodies some of like the '90s kid, like age 80.
Like, whatever, man.
Yeah, he's got the total like whatever. I don't care, man. He's like, this job's a job, man. Just gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, there's one thing I want to mention real quick. So at the beginning, when there's that heist going on, and we first see Batwoman and Batman's basically trying to stop these guys from smuggling weapons, and Batwoman intervenes. One of the guys in that heist, he looks very out of place. He looks like he should be at a fucking beatnik bar.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like, he just got into like, hey man, is this going to the Java Bean? Like, yeah, get in.
It's probably one of those ones that's like Batman always has like that very like 1940s kind of futuristic look. Maybe it's like, well, this movie takes place later, so now they're moving to the 50s and there's beatniks running around Gotham now.
Let's be honest, we think of this guy as like some bongo playing fuck now. Back then, he was probably dealing heroin, so come on.
Yeah, exactly, one of those ones. But I will say, like, I do think the whole mystery part, though, of, like, kind of, like, is actually really well done. Because, you know, doesn't matter, you know, kid or not, like, I could see a lot of people being like, oh, shit, that's what it turned out being. Like I could definitely see that kind of getting you. If you have, like, your Batman detective skills, yeah, you'll probably start to get it, you know, about halfway into it or so. But even still, like, it will throw some curveballs at you the first time around.
Well, they do some very obvious things. Like, oh, obviously it's fucking this lady, or maybe it's that lady over there. And the fact is that, oh, it's all three of them working together. That's actually kind of a clever thing. Like, they'd switch off the suit. Like, all right, that's a clever way to go about it, because there'd be moments where he's following one of them, but then Batwoman appears somewhere else, and like, well, it can't be her, because Batwoman was there, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And they even give Batwoman her own voice, because she has a voice modulator.
Yeah, and I think just all the ways they go about it, they do a real good job of kind of keeping it, like, under wraps in a sense. And I think that just kind of makes it nice as you're trying to, like, kind of solve it out yourself as Batman's kind of going about it, and then you just kind of start going, what the fuck? It's not that. Well, it can't be her if she's here in person, and then Batwoman's over there, and so on, you know, like the Iceberg Lounge with, like, the fucking penguin and stuff.
I want to mention something really small, real quick. When they go to the Iceberg Lounge, and there's that like Shakira-esque song playing, and it doesn't look bad. Whenever they do something kind of different though, because they start doing, it's not rotoscope animation.
It pretty much is rotoscope. It's just modern rotoscope.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could tell from their movements, they're way more fluid, and it's just because usually I feel like most rotoscope stuff you see this day and age, or most rotoscope you see back then. You can kind of see they had normal proportions, but they still have the DC universe kind of style proportions and all that. It always kind of throws me off just a little bit compared to how everything else looks. Not that everything else looks bad or anything, but just for how fast and fluid it's moving for a second. And I was just like, it doesn't look bad, but always like, I don't know, there's something about that scene just kind of almost sort of threw me off, kind of. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the thing is like, it's almost that weird thing that when you have kind of like, in a sense, like, even though this is like a good version of TV show animation, but TV show animation generally is running at, like double frame rate of like 12 frames. And then all of a sudden they decide to do these big dance scenes and they start doing it like at 24 frames. And then it's got this much more fluid movement going on. I think it's just that weird, like, uncanny thing. Because if it was like that the whole time, you wouldn't think anything of it, and it probably would look. But then all of a sudden, it just pops up just for this music, scene, and it's like, huh. I even love, like, they're like, we put some money into that scene, so when the credits roll, just play that same song over again of that dancing in there. Because you know what, shit, that dancing costs more than like this whole movie. So.
Well, it's also one of those things like that song, because the singer is kind of winking and look at the camera while singing the song a little bit. So it's like, is this turning into a musical for a second? And all of a sudden cuts to Bruce Wayne and his date walking in. Like, oh, okay, never mind. We're back to Batman. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I will say there's also a part that's like probably like the best part in this entire movie, and it's a very small part, but the part that I love so much is there's a part where like when Batman's going around like trying to figure out who's who and whatnot, and he goes to Roxanne's place or whatever, and her dad's the gangster and everything like that, and he's got like the two thugs that are always kind of like pretty much failing every single time they go. They're supposed to protect her and supposed to protect the business, and they never seem to do good. They're almost like a fucking like Looney Tunes character, but not nearly as wacky. But there's a part where Batman's literally, like, looking through, like, Roxanne's fucking stuff, like, just flipping through, and one of the thug guys opens the door, and he just looks in, and Batman's in there. Batman just does this thing and turns and looks, and I love because the camera, like, cuts in the Batman, cuts back to that guy, and goes back. Batman's like, yeah, you ain't gonna fucking say shit. And then the guy just kind of like, I fucking know. Close the door and just goes on his merry way.
Well, even the other guy is like, because that guy already got fucked up like 2 or 3 times previously by Batman in the movie. So by that time, he just saw him. He just closed the door. Like, anybody in there? Nope. Just keeps walking.
Just like, because that's also like literally, if you're just a regular thug and you see fucking Batman and you know you're by yourself, no, not fucking worth it.
I know how this dance ends.
It's like just that part. It's just the zoom in on Batman's fucking face. It just doesn't have. They don't say anything. Doesn't have to fucking say anything. Just that look.
Well, I feel like you'd see more of this kind of humor in like a kid's cartoon now, but around then you wouldn't see it too often. I feel like back then they would really force feed you a lot of that humor in like a serious show or an action show. But I think the DC stuff was always kind of good about dry. I mean, it was never really enough to make it a comedy, but it was always really good with dry humor like that.
Yeah, well, because that's also one of those scenes that, like, some people might not even might go a little bit over their head too, even. But like, I don't know, I love that part. So. It's like the takeaway for me. It's like I know it's not much, but.
Well, no, I think that's funny, just because how often does he like, oh, it's the Bat, how often does that happen? How often do they like stop and say, no, not doing this,
not worry, I don't get paid enough for this part.
And like, I thought another thing that was funny about that is when watching that, it was just more kind of awkward. I think he was there for ulterior motives, but when Batman actually when he fucks that dude up and the other guy for like the first or second time, and he goes to that Carlton's house, and when he gets there, and he just kind of gets to the balcony, and he's just like, what are you doing? This is my family. You can't come in. There's business and there's family. You can't do this. And Batman just walks in, just like runs away and jumps out. Like, he doesn't say nothing. I'm like, I feel like he would have just said, I'm on to you, or some shit like that. You know what I mean? I don't feel like, hey, he's yelling at me. I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah, I know. That part's a little bit weird.
I think maybe he was doing it just to see, like, the silhouette of the girl in the window or something, to see if it was his daughter, Roxanne. But there's something about that. Because I think the relationship makes sense. Because at the end of the day, and I'll give him credit for this, because I didn't really piece this together. There's 3 women, and there's 3 crime lords working together. It's Kingpin, this new guy, as far as I know, he's new. Maybe he's in one of the other comics or cartoons, but I've never seen him. Carlton, and then Rupert Thorne, who was in the I can't talk right now, in the cartoon every so often. And it's weird because he dies in Mask of the Phantasm, but then somehow he's kind of back alive, like in the next season of the animated series or something like that. Did you ever notice that when he the audio went out on my side for a second, so I don't know if you heard me, but
yeah, you've been here the whole time.
Okay, cool. How Rupert Thorne, how he dies in Mask of the Phantasm, but he's back alive in like later seasons.
Yeah, yeah. There's always those kind of things like that. Sometimes I feel like, well, I guess he didn't die then.
I guess he didn't die, or he has like a twin brother or some shit. But yeah, no, because I was I'll be honest. When I first saw Batman Begins, it was before I read The Long Halloween or Year One, so I assumed that Carmine Falcone was Rupert Thorne.
Oh, really?
I didn't really remember. I didn't memorize the name by then, but I always remembered there was an old gangster guy with white hair who'd often be wearing like a white suit or something.
Yeah, no. He does, like, you could kind of see, like, as a kid putting two and two together and going, oh, that should be the same character. And then
Because it's not like I knew Rupert Thorne off the top of my head, not like the Joker. Like, oh yeah, favorite Batman villain, Scarecrow, Two-Face, Rupert Thorne.
Yeah, exactly, one of those ones. But
yes. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Oh, so basically it's Penguin, Rupert Thorne, and this new guy, Carlton. And the three of them are working together. And the three ladies that are working together is the inventor, the daughter of Carlton, and the detective. And I think the three of them, like, each of them has a score to settle with one of these gangsters. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing. And, you know, as his story goes along, Batman kind of tries. He's like, well, you girls were all sororities in college together. I see how this was. And even you fucking shared a fucking room. You were roommates. Does that ring a fucking bell?
Well, there's even that whole part, like, she's like, what's this? A sketchbook from 7 years ago? You know, like, she was a good artist. This is clearly that lady. That was a clever way to get it in there, I thought. I mean, it was a long shot, but I thought it was clever.
Yeah, just like, oh, here's some drunken pictures of the two of them together. I fucking knew it.
Oh, they're scissoring. I knew it.
Oh, God. It's like all the pictures he's going through, and that one like thug like opens the door.
Well, that's even the moment. Like he says, like, "Oh yeah, well, what's your proof? This right here."
I think it's so funny. He just pulls out a picture of all three of them together. It's like, oh, we thought that was. Oh, no one was supposed to really see that. Thought that Polaroid camera was destroyed. Oh, it was. But Batman has his ways.
I was able to reassemble the shattered bullet and get a thumbprint off it. You don't think I can figure this shit out?
Yeah,
Fuck you.
Throws the photo at her. It's like, I made a lot of copies and posted them around town. Kind of a dick like that, but Oh, so that's the reason why Commissioner Gordon said you had to leave and resign?
He wasn't as open-minded yet, you know. It wasn't until like 10 years later till Gotham PD put a pride flag outside.
Yeah, and that's still, you know, he was retired by that point, so it kind of worked out for him. He just kind of said, he's like, back in my day, pride was a 7 deadly sin.
Back in my day, you were prideful to have a job and to serve the city. Like, oh, Jesus, Jim. All right.
Oh, you know what I mean? And, you just kind of kept it in the, the closet. That was a good place. It's a safe place. That's where it should always be.
Barbara's just, like, sinking her face down, like, at the dinner table. Like, this is every fucking Thanksgiving.
He's just like, Barbara, what? Come on. Like, I love gay people. I'm all for the closet.
Just keep it there, all right?
Just keep it there. It's safe. Shit. I mean, I keep it in the closet, and I'm not even gay. Or, I don't know, maybe I am. Just flips the table over.
What? You don't like me now? You don't like me?
You know what, Barbara? I'm going to prove you wrong. Where's the young, Italian boy?
I like how it's like, it's Thanksgiving, but it's always just the two of them. So everyone else in the family's fucking dead.
Yeah, it's not my fault that we live with, a world of gangsters and only one Batman and me. Nobody ever puts me in the fucking, side fucking section of crime fighting. Just
That's the thing. Gotham City is like, don't get me wrong, I know there are people who made a million jokes and references about it, but in all honesty, it's like, why the fuck would you ever want to move to Gotham City in the world of like superheroes. I mean, you go to Metropolis, and the thing about Metropolis is like once a year you're gonna have some kind of like 9/11 style, like all right, Brainiac's gonna attack or whatever. But beyond that, Superman's got you covered, like on like basic ass crime. No one's dumb enough to pull. Most people aren't dumb enough to try to rob a liquor store in Metropolis. But you know, you just got to look out for like, oh, here comes Brainiac, or here comes Lobo, or Parasite, once or twice a year, maybe some shit like that. Usually he takes it up to space, but every day in Gotham, it's like, all right, well, let's see, we have a mass shooting over here, we got a gang war over here. So it's like, why the fuck does anyone go to Gotham by this point?
Yeah, so somebody poisons the reservoir at least every other year.
Yeah. At least, and that's a good year.
Yeah, you know, and hopefully you just get like fear toxin in there. That's much better to have that than, you know, get some fucking laughing disease.
Laughing disease, or somebody's just like doing crimes with duality, like, oh well, this building blew up and that building blew up on the other side of town. It was Two-Face.
Yeah, well,
two building. All right, I get it.
Yeah, no, but yeah,
or you get catfished by fucking like Clayface.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good at all.
You think you're talking to some like, you know, hot like 28-year-old lady, and he's just like, oh fuck,
Clay Dick. It's like, oh god, he's doing it again. Well, the other thing that's really cool in this one too, though, is you do get you get Bane kind of coming back, because really it's like, I almost want to say like in the animated series he's only in like 2 or 3 episodes. It's not that many. It's like one of those ones like you remember him, but it's like. And I almost want to say Bane's only in like 1 episode or 2 in maybe the 3rd season, and then 1 or 2 episodes in the 4th season. Like, and that's like it, if I can remember correctly.
He's there for like big episodes. Like there's the episode where they first introduce him, and they're leaning a lot more on the Lucha Libre thing. And then there's the episode where there's the whatchamacallit, the second series where he has this new look, where they kind of just change the animation style. And granted, it wasn't real, but he's the guy who kills Batman and Jim Gordon in that Nightmare episode. Yeah. So he's always, and I think there's also the episode where Batman and Superman have to switch places for a second. So like Superman comes in dressed like Batman, and he just like, I have a new and improved Venom. He just can't do shit against him. Like, why is it not working?
That's a good one right there. But I just feel like those ones, I mean, granted, Bane's a pretty new character, so, you know, like this time period, like, when there's somebody going like, oh, they're fucking using a new character. We have so many of these great old characters, and you have to use a new character. You know, there was somebody out there at that time period when that was happening, because that's always sort of how it seems to go. But it's just...
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, it's just cool in this one, because the Bane is kind of like, they bring him in kind of towards the end, I guess, sort of semi, like, in the second act and the third act, and they kind of use him as that fourth sort of villain in this whole thing and whatnot. And I think they just do a good job of Bane in this one.
Real talk, because you said people get kind of mad, like, oh, they're using a newer character, whatever. I like it when they use newer characters, because don't get me wrong, I love Joker, I love Penguin and all those characters, but every once in a while, you want them just to mix it up a little bit. Like, I'm hoping, who knows, and hopefully they do a good job if it is the case, I'm really hoping the Court of Owls is in the new Robert Pattinson movie. And I'm only thinking that because there's a part where when he has, I'm thinking Riddler is obviously in it, but I'm thinking there's a part where he gets the card. He says, "To who it may concern," and there's like a picture of an owl on the card or whatever. Maybe coincidental, but I'm like, you know, maybe it's not time to bring the Court of Owls in this shit, because now you think about it, it's like they were like the new villains. They're the new hot shit for a minute. Now it's like, wait, they came out 10 years ago. That's how fucking long it's been.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, no, I'm not saying necessarily like that, but, you know, there's always that one where it's just like some people just don't like certain new characters, when I guess there's other old characters that have never been used. That's what I was thinking of.
I'm surprised the lack of Hush. We have like one movie where we have a video game and one movie where Hush comes in, and it wasn't even really Hush. It was Riddler pretending to be Hush.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why Hush has always been literally hushed out of these like extra kind of like multimedia areas.
He was apparently going to be in I read somewhere that he was apparently, I never really watched, I only saw like a few random episodes, but there's that show The Batman, the newer version. No, well, I guess by now it's old, but it was
the CG one
after the animated. No, it was after the
Oh,
Batman.
the Batman. Yeah, no, I always get confused in this.
It has the I don't know what to call it because it's always like it's a style like it was when we kind of stopped watching cartoons, but it's that kind of like early 2000s Saturday morning style, which I just call the Ben 10 style. Everything looks kind of like quasi anime-ish, but not entirely anime-ish.
Yeah, and everything has sort of a futuristic-y kind of like pointy young look. I mean, like
Spectacular Spider-Man, Ben 10, the Batman. I'm sure there's other things that are getting by
realistically, it's all the stuff that came from Batman Beyond. Almost, it sounds weird, but that was sort of like the start, at least the American side, and they kind of made it from there. And that's the one too. Is I've always wanted to give the Batman because I've seen a handful of episodes, and there's always one of those shows where it's like it's kind of cool. It was one of those ones where I'd be like, I'm not loving it, but I still kind of like I'm still enjoying it. But I think it's one of those ones, because there's like 5 seasons of it. So I know that they do a lot of stuff in there, and I think there's some episodes where they do get like real deep and real serious and hard cuts and all that kind of stuff throughout it. I think it just I remember when it kind of came on, I just had that thing where it's just like, it's kind of kiddie. I don't know, they'll be sort of serious, and then like I remember Joker had like, he looked like he came out of like Freakazoid or something like that.
I know that Black Mask is in it, so that kind of already intrigues me. But I mean, I don't know how accurate he is or what he's like. But I was like, well, anything to mix it up a little bit, get a different character we haven't seen in because Black Mask didn't even make it into the animated stuff. He was like in a comic of the animated universe, but not actually animated. And I don't mean the ongoing animated universe stuff. I just mean like DC animated, the original '90s stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that, what was I going to say about that? There's just something about that style that was kind of put me off. Like, I don't know, maybe because I grew up with the 90s style that I kind of warmed up to it. So anytime you go back to it, like, oh, I recognize this. But there's something about just that early 2000s cartoon style, it just pushed me away from it. I don't know what it is. Just like, I feel like you're trying to sell me a toy right now. Which, be fair, that's what most of these cartoons were trying to do.
Well, that's pretty much why a cartoon's made. But it was weird because I just remember being a kid though. Like when that animation style pretty much happened, where they did the shift into like I guess you'd call it the 2000s cartoons from the 90s ones. I mean, granted, I was like maybe like give or take, depending on which show it is, between about like 12 and 14 or something like that, or even maybe 11 for some of those ones that came out a little bit earlier in that kind of like style. And I just remember like at that age, like you would think that I would be like almost like prime candidate, like target audience. And I just remember being there, it's like, not my fucking show, because I just remember there was shows like, it was like there was the Ninja Turtles, the second one, the TMNT one.
Same style.
And I was just like, oh, I'm like, it's not for me, not my Ninja Turtles. And then the same thing as I remember when X-Men Evolution came up, I'm like, not my X-Men. And then it was even like the other ones. It was weird. I watched Batman Beyond, but I remember all the other ones, like I kind of didn't. Though granted, if you come back to those shows in the long run, you kind of watch it, you watch like TMNT and you're like, it's actually better than the original one. I don't know what younger me was thinking. And then you watch like X-Men Evolution, and I'm not saying that one's better than the original X-Men, but I'm like, it's pretty fucking good still, though. If I would have just gave it a chance instead of had that, like, 11, 12-year-old, like, fucking attitude, like, I know best.
Yeah, there's that. But then there's also, I think people making that kind of knew that, and we'll get back to the main thing, the mystery of the Batwoman and all that in just a second, but I think this kind of leads into it. I think that at that point, animators, like our generation, kind of held on to cartoons, because before then, people get too old for a cartoon, they push it aside. Like, okay, I liked cartoons, now I'm gonna go join the war. Now I'm gonna get a job at the lumber mill or some shit. Now it's kind of like, oh no, I kind of remember this thing I liked, so much so that we're getting R-rated versions of the thing I like actually produced by the company that made the original. So I think that they kind of saw that happening, maybe not to that extreme, but they kind of realized, kids are probably a little smarter. They could probably pick up on this a little bit more. Let's make an X-Men cartoon that a 6-year-old could watch, but also that his edgy 16-year-old brother could watch too.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like one of those ones. I mean, like, because really, like most cartoons that have been made in like the last like 30 years, I mean, unless they're made for like really young kids, you pretty much can almost go into any of them, even if it might even have a little bit more cartoony looking animation. But like you sit there and you're like, oh shit, they actually do have like some real stuff kind of going on here, and the story's good and kind of keeps you entertained and kind of like why you like cartoons. But I don't know, and it's like I know that like when that shift happened in the 2000s, in a sense, when they were making those cartoons, it was almost that kind of thing like, hey, Mr. 12-year-old, you're not our target audience. Mr. 8-year-old over there is the new one, so you get the fuck out of here. Like, because I think that was just sort of how they were there, because they probably were like, by the time people become teenagers, like in the olden days, it's almost like they're done with cartoons. Like, that probably was like the tried and true way for like, since like the 50s, was probably the second that a kid becomes a teenager, he ain't fucking watching the Looney Tunes anymore, you know, he's gonna go outside and start, you know, Looney Tuning his own dick, you know.
You want to get laid, right? Well, stop watching Tiny Toons and Hysteria and get a fucking job.
Yeah, go down in the mill. They're hiring. They love child labor. You know, I mean, because there's little places that, you know, an adult can't fit. You know, when a machine breaks, you know what I mean? They don't make it so that a 200-pound man can get in there. No, they make it so that you get a little, you know, 75-pound boy and, you know, push him through there. And pull that piece of wood out that's jammed in the machine, Billy.
You know, put on these gloves. Yeah, I know they're too big, but still, just do it. You know.
Put them on. We have OSHA over there. We need to keep the regulations in fucking check. You know, but so it's like it's that sort of thing, and then it's like I think only in like the last 20 years have they kind of realized they're like, oh shit, you know what? Old people are watching cartoons too, because I remember that was always the big thing about like X-Men and Batman is that like. I remember like my Aunt Lorraine and everything like that. She would fucking watch the X-Men show like religiously, like as it came on, and same with Batman and so on. Like no different than like a kid, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could see that. There's still, well, I think just by then like action cartoons are better, and they were just not to be a dick, but I think most cases action cartoons are better than what they were as He-Man or Transformers. No offense to people who like that shit, but you know.
Well, we said before, but I always do think the 70s and 80s, even though I watched a lot of those cartoons as well too, I always feel that was like the weakest time period of like animation. Not saying there's not some good things in there, and there's still good ideas, but I just felt like the shows just were not nearly as dialed in. Is the 6-year-old you? It didn't matter because it was fucking awesome, like, you know, Transformers and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's like they just didn't have that same thing that like, you know, Batman the Animated Series had, you know, or it's like perfect examples like not Justice League, but Super Friends. You know what I mean? Like I remember just being a kid, was always watching that show, and it was always like, are they ever gonna fail? Like, can somebody at least get beat up? Or oh no, it's all gonna work out. You know, just life was just
Super Friends. Super Friends is always bullshit. But actually, I got a really ham-fisted way to bring it back around. Speaking of child labor, Robin didn't have a whole lot to do in this movie.
No, he's just kind of there being like the hangout kid, like, hey, you know, I'm just hanging out, just working out, you know, in the background, reading a magazine in the car. Me and Alfred are gonna go shoot pool later on, you know, if you want to join.
At some point, he's like doing a little bit of research on a computer, and then beyond that, he says, I drove the boat.
Oh, yeah, he does drive the boat. Like, Rad's like, oh, that 12-year-old's driving a boat like a maniac out there. he almost tried to smash 2 mob bosses with it.
What if he did kill him and, like, Batman's like, Robin! He's like, what, man? What do you expect me to do? Oh,
I'm 12 years old. I only just got my boat license.
The gravity of this situation is yet to hit me. I've been adopted by a rich guy.
Yeah, and I still have a family, so that's kind of the weird part.
Well, I mean, I guess they did the whole thing where he was like a street kid. They kind of fused Jason Todd and Tim Drake. Like, let's not kill him in this version.
Yeah.
But he looks like, even though he like is apparently living with like Bruce Wayne, he's still wearing like those fucking Urkel slacks. Like where like almost those pants that come up to his fucking nipples just about, you know, and just like a basic ass white t-shirt. Like I thought like the Ward to Bruce Wayne would be a little bit more like stylish or some shit.
Yeah, he's a little casual, I guess. Just a little too much.
I guess we never got to see Tim Drake in the first 3 seasons art style. So I'm kind of wondering how he looked for that. He probably looked like he just went to a prep school, because that's kind of how like fucking Dick looked.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody's got like that literally 1940s look, like they're about ready to go to like Animal House or something like that. I know that's like 61, but still, it's like those looks.
That kind of look.
Yeah, they all kind of like fade in together. Like that's what I feel like. What's probably going on with like fucking Dick and Barbara in this one is the fucking Dick's at like the Delta House right now.
Doing keg stands with Wally West.
Yeah, exactly. It's the early version of the Teen Titans. But yeah, no, this one right here though, I think this is one of those movies like it's a total solid movie all the way through. Got great action in it, good mystery, literally. With the title, it's cool being kind of that last big hoorah of the Batman the Animated Series. I like how it just kind of takes you through. It's almost like, here it is, I mean, because even though like there's some stuff that kind of came out that's recently that's like it, I still feel this is like the definitive. I mean, it sounds like it's the last one, like it has like an actual ending. Like no, it's just more like plays out like a normal Batman story. You know what I mean? It's not like one of those ones where it gets fucking real serious at the end when like Tim like kills 2 fucking guys in a boat and Bruce is just like, oh shit. oh God.
Have I lost my way?
At first,
well, it got really intense even in like Batman Beyond, the Return of the Joker, when like freaking Tim kills Joker, really. And they had like even like it kind of amazes me like how much of what a bunch of bitches really Warner Brothers or departments of Warner Brothers, because you have the people making the movie and then you have the people that are advertising the movie, and there's some department in Warner Brothers like, I refuse to advertise this movie, even though we work for the same company technically. Like, why? It's like, you have a child killing a man. Like, well, you saw the progression. You saw how it got there. That this is not like, I'm not going to put an ad for a movie where a child kills a man, even after the man tortured the child and this and that. Like, all right, what if he accidentally kills him by pushing him and he gets electrocuted? Oh, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Well, I think there's just a lot of people that like that's a perfect. Like I always feel those are the perfect example of people that like
how the fuck they get their job.
Well, they're people that like they literally went to school, went to college, never went outside. Like they never left outside that bubble. I think they just stayed like on this like literally the straight and narrow path. Like when you hear that phrase, I feel like that's those kind of people that have like no outside world like knowledge of anything. They just fall. They literally put their nose to the fucking book and looked up one day and they were 35 years old with a job at fucking Warner Brothers. Like that's what happened there. Like no life experiences at all. Has no idea. Like probably never even seen a fucking movie in their entire life.
They look out a window. They see like this big beautiful mountain. They stare at that mountain every day. They're like, nope. Not today. Just go back to reading.
just looks just so peaceful and serene, but in their minds, like, no, looks a little too threatening. I see some clouds coming in.
I might have to put on my hiking boots. God, I know I haven't taken them out of the box yet, but still.
And I'm not going to break the seal on it because what if I have to take them back?
You never know. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad. No, I think this. I'll say, going back to like the movie itself, and even like the 3 Batwoman of the movie, I thought they were divvied up pretty well. I thought they were kind of a good balance of everything they would need to pull this job off. Like I especially like the tech girl, because when I saw how awkward she is, like, oh, she's definitely gonna be Batgirl. That is such a red herring. She's definitely gonna be Batwoman. Like, oh, she's one of them, but yeah.
Yeah, she's played by Kelly Ripa. I think that's like the interesting thing about that.
Who's Kelly Ripa again? What's she in?
What I always think of is Regis and Kelly. Well, when Regis Philbin got, he was like, "Oh, get rid of the old lady, bring in the young one." Now that's what I always kind of remind me of. Like, oh, I'm 70 years old and I get to sit next to a 20-year-old. Pretty fucking sweet. Come join my show.
I forgot her name. I think I recognized her voice, but I couldn't place it to the name. Yeah, there's her, and then there is also Sonia, who is the detective. Who I'm not gonna lie, for a minute I thought that was Montoya.
That does seem like that almost could, like, you literally could use that like character, like the look of her, and just call that Montoya, like just have like a different kind of look, and I think it would work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was her for a second, and yeah, no, I even like the way they did Penguin, because like. By this point in the series, Penguin, I mean, you knew that there's probably some shady underling shit going on. But by then, he was kind of straight. They just go to his club, and he just like, guys, knock off the shit. I'm trying to go straight now. This like, oh no, Penguin's back in the shit now.
Yeah, he gets thrown. Well, I feel like that's the thing about Penguin. He thinks he's like, oh, we're going to have this little, like, we're going to go out to international waters, make a little bit of extra bucks on the side. The government doesn't need to know, Like, I feel like he's doing one of those kind of things. And then when shit kind of goes down, like, oh, the fucking Batwoman's out there You know what I mean? Like ruining my fucking little plan to make a little bit of a side hustle.
I even like his line, like what was it? They said it was like a Batwoman of some kind. He's like, there's a Batman, a Batgirl, a Batwoman. Is there something in the fucking water?
Yeah, I know. He's got some good comedy lines in there too. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's really like the writing's very witty. I like that part about it. Like, it's just, I mean, Batman writing's mostly always good, but this one just feels like it has this feeling like this movie was meant to almost be like a full-on theatrical movie and so on. I mean, I know it's just a straight to DVD, but that doesn't really mean anything. But it does have like that very grand scheme feel to it. Like, you could see this being like, let's just say this movie was live action, it could totally work. And, you know, and it would probably even be easy to sell, too. It's not like a real complicated, you gotta know your Batman knowledge movie. Like, I feel like you could really, like, utilize this and just turn it into a straight-up live-action movie and totally work.
Yeah, and I know that this isn't a very accurate version of Batwoman, but at that time, last time we saw Batwoman in the comics was somewhere in the 50s, and she was kind of retconned and more or less taken out. And then they kind of updated her and made her like a lesbian lawyer and a lesbian Jewish lawyer, and I think like somewhere in like 2006, they're trying to knock off a few boxes.
Yeah, it's like, a couple it's like one of those ones. I always love when they sort of do that. Like, it's kind of funny. That's like sort of like when I think of like sometimes when they make certain like lesbian characters too. Like a lot of times I feel that like it's like, well, how do we make a lesbian character? Just make it like a young boy. Well, what? It's a woman, but it's a young boy. I mean, isn't that what a lesbian is? Like, you'll see that so many times, too.
Someone to try to explain to him again. I can't do it the fifth time. I think that, I mean, to be fair, I actually like the character, the update they've done. I mean, every so often, they try to do the whole thing of, like, I'm not one of you. Like, all right, why wear my fucking symbol then?
Yeah, exactly. But then my lawyers will contact you in the morning.
Aside from that, though, I generally think she's a pretty well done character, and I like it whenever because every so often, I don't want to get in a whole topic of like, oh, when they try to SJW this or SJW that, but every so often there are the things where like, that seems a little forced. With her, and like, actually, it's a logical progression, the way that they did it, and she's actually a pretty good character in the comics I did read, you know?
Well, the nice thing, too, is, like, that was, like, one of those characters that, like, Batwoman was just, like, a lost-in-time character. Even when this movie came out, that's why I feel like they used her. They're like, well, she's a lost-in-time character. That's why we can kind of, like, you know, retcon her into whatever we kind of want her to be, you know? And that's same with, like, kind of the newer, the redhead version that they've used.
Yeah, and so I think this is a very interesting way to go about it. And it's funny thing you said that this seems like it could be a theatrical movie. Who knows? Maybe it was. I couldn't find a whole lot on it actually.
No, but, it wasn't theatrical for sure. It's definitely straight to video.
Batman Return. It's funny because originally Batman Mask of the Phantasm was not going to go to theaters. That was going to be a straight to video movie. Like, you know, this is so good. Let's put it to theaters. And they didn't do any advertising for it. It just went out there. And then
it's funny that they say like they didn't do any advertising, but maybe just because I was like the pure target audience. I just remember seeing like the posters in the theater for Mask of the Phantasm, being like, "Oh fuck, oh fuck."
That I remember seeing a few ads, but not very many. It was very And then, but then like Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, that was gonna go to theaters, and then at the last minute, partway through the production, they changed it around and. They even like Paul Dini. I was actually at a book signing when he did that book, the autobiographical book he did.
The Batman, the Dark Knight one or whatever.
It's not Dark Knight. It's called
It's called like A Dark Knight or something like that. Or...
A night, like a true something. A Batman. It's a really good book. But it's basically autobiographical story, and he incorporates like Batman as metaphors and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, very great book. But I was at a book signing for that, and got to be lucky enough to raise my hand and ask a couple of questions. And I don't think I asked this one, but it came up that originally when he was doing Batman Beyond Joker, the Return of the Joker, he was told, make whatever you want. Make it as violent as you want. It will get edited down if it's violent, but just write whatever you want. We're going to try and make something to go to theaters. And as that went on, it got trimmed and trimmed and trimmed. And then like people at Warner Brothers last minute decided, no, this is going to be a straight to video movie. Which, that movie's already so good. Add like another 10 minutes on it, that definitely could have gone to theaters.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Well, it's like one of those ones that pretty much is an animated movie. You could still go to the theaters like at that length too, but
I think that one's only like 45 minutes or 50 minutes, something like that.
I think it's still over an hour.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Even like the budget they give it. Usually, movies are rarely like an hour and 10. Rarely even goes to the theater. It has to be at least an hour and 20. It seems. I know it's an hour and 10, but it seems like an hour and 20 is like almost because you never see a runtime for a movie that goes to theaters like an hour and 10 or anything like that.
Yeah, well, every once in a while you'll see animated movies. I mean, it's not common anymore. It's like, sounds weird, like...
old Disney movies, like old Disney movies.
Well, yeah, real old ones. But I'd say even like Land Before Time, I remember that one's only like 65 minutes or something like that. So like really fucking short. And I think
Land Before Time?
Yeah, and I think the reason why is because they kind of cut out... Apparently there's like 20 fucking minutes of that movie sitting on like the fucking floorboard somewhere because it was too fucking violent or something like that. And Steven Spielberg's like...
Now I want to see that.
I know. So it's like one of those ones where it's like, oh, that'd be fucking sweet. But yeah, it is one of those ones where... Yeah, like that one. I remember just because I rewatched it not that long ago. I was like, that movie was like literally about a solid hour, just in change.
You missed the part where Littlefoot like kills Sharptooth, and he holds his head above like his children, saying, "Is this your warrior?" and chucks it down on them.
Yeah, it's like one of those ones.
With his blood painted across his face like war paint.
Well, I had a good like tagline for that movie. I called it, we're like, friends that kill together, stay together. Because that's really what that movie is. It's like it's a movie about like you and this ragtag group of friends, and you have to overcome something, and in the process you get to this point where like, oh, we had to fucking commit a murder and kill this T-Rex, But that's gonna keep our bond nice and strong.
If they had to survive, they all pulled, Ducky, the quiet, slow one, I don't remember his name, they all turn around like, look, if shit goes bad and we have to eat something, I know we're not meat eaters, but look, there's no fucking vegetation around here, so we gotta do something. If shit goes bad, we're eating Sarah. We agreed that, right? And Triceratops is a fucking bitch. No, we're not eating my Starleaf. My parents gave me the Starleaf. Fuck you. We're eating the Triceratops. I don't care if it goes against my biology.
Hey, I'll make myself evolve.
It's not the Land Before Time. It's the time before.
It's the time before land.
It's not the time before. It's not the time before. I can't even get it mixed up now. Fuck. It was a good one too. It's the time before God. All right. There's no one watching. We're alone out here.
But yeah, so
the land of the lost. We'll show them how lost we all really are.
Yeah, exactly. One of those ones. But,
he just is like David Lynch-esque, like fucking, like oh wow, I you see Don Bluth in an interview. He's like, yeah, I was rewatching the director's cut to Apocalypse Now.
The Redux version, and. That fucking weird scene where, like, all the Playboy bunnies are, like, hopped up on something and it's fucking raining out and whatnot? Like, yeah, that's fucking weird,
There's
too.
There's a dead body in the corner? Yeah.
I thought I'd incorporate the Land Before Time.
They wouldn't, surprisingly, they wouldn't, like, lend us, like, any music to the Doors, but,
maybe get Ray Manzarek to come in and play a little bit of piano in the background. Get some organ going.
It's the part where they fucking... Where the dinosaurs eat some psychedelic mushrooms and go on a killing spree.
But yeah.
Batman, yeah.
but Batman could go to theater. You know what I miss? Remember like when they brought that one DCU? They had like a moment where they did like two DCU ones. They're like, oh shit, we're gonna do Killing Joke in theaters, and they did like one other one. They did two. Like, why'd that just go away? That just like disappeared. It's like, we did two of them. Because I remember, dude, like, the theater for the Killing Joke, it was, like, filled to the fucking
I think
brim.
it was Dark Knight Returns, too. I think once Dark Knight Returns Part 2 came out, they released it as one solid long movie.
Yeah, I think that one was very, like, few screens, though. Like, where, like, I remember, like, they had a little bit more wider release for, like, Killing Joke. And I want to say there was one other one they did, but maybe it was just that. That was it. But it's like, it's too bad that like they couldn't do more of that because I don't know. I think as long as those things are advertised to the right people and you have the place that they can go to and it's in the vicinity, I think that there always is a target audience for that.
Yeah, I'd be up for that. it wasn't near me when it happened. So, but yeah, no, I'm up for checking out. Of course, like I'm saying I want to see more of these movies. Like they're still coming out. I guess it's just this is the proto version of it. But I'm always up for more classic Batman.
Yeah, exactly. It would be kind of cool to see more. It'd be cool that, realistically, it'd be really awesome, is if they could go back and they could do Batman, but done in the original animation style.
Yeah, I can see them doing something like that.
I mean, at some point, I definitely could see that kind of happening. I mean, I feel like the reason why they kind of went with the second style is, one, they just wanted to change a couple characters around, but I think they really just wanted to make it easier and cheaper to animate. Like, it's not that it looks bad, of course. It still looks really good, but it is just one of those ones, like, just, like, that original look of the animation is so cool looking and so classic.
Real talk, I'm not a real big fan of Catwoman's look in the last season. It looks a little too, like, I know that Tim Burton made the first two movies, but it looks like a little Nightmare Before Christmas-ish,
Well, and it's like, speaking of which, Catwoman's actually even in this movie, too. Or no, I guess
she's in the little, like, chase.
That's right. That's what she's in. She's in the short part. I always get that kind of confused, but yeah, well, because, like, that one's almost like, it's almost kind of, like, very lazy when you think about the way that Catwoman looks. And that, it's like, what is she? She's solid black. Is there anything else to her?
And her mouth is, like, pale white, like zombie white.
Yeah, like, it's two colors. It's black and white and some red lipstick, Boom. Animate. And it's just like one of those ones where, like, it's almost that kind of thing. It might be like that Spider-Man thing where someone's like, oh, is there a way that we can, like, not draw his web every single time? Like, on his outfit? Like, what fucking jackass sent us, hey, make an animated movie, and oh, by the way, draw the web every single time. This is 1969. I ain't fucking doing that.
Yeah, because they do that in the 90s one, but they sure as shit don't do it in the 60s one. They just look like they got, like, a few lines in. Fuck it. They don't pay me enough for this shit.
I know, people always complain. They're like, oh, they didn't fucking draw the thing. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't think I would either if I had to draw that many fucking frames, too.
The first few times when I was a kid and I drew Spider-Man, I did the webbing, but then after a while I was like, fuck it, what goes there.
Yeah, it's like one of those ones. Like, I think it's funny because, like,
it's Ben Reilly's Spider-Man. There you go. It's that Spider-Man.
I love how the comic book people were complaining to, like, the animators, like, they don't even fucking draw the webbing on them. I'm like, dude, you drew like 24 pages, and probably Spider-Man's only in the outfit like maybe even half of those pages. This guy had to draw fucking 24 minutes at 24 frames, probably 12 frames technically, but still. And since it's a cartoon show, I bet you he's in the outfit more than he is in, like, the Peter Parker outfit. But,
yeah. But no, I could actually, the way how much, nostalgia, I mean, we're getting a little bit of 90s nostalgia right now. I think we're finishing out 80s and we're leading into 90s, but, I can see them trying to do some sort of, I won't say something as much as like an Into the Spider-Verse of animated Batman stuff, but I could see something trying to do, like, we got another animated Batman movie coming to theaters, and if you got a Crypto the Super Dog movie coming out, like, in a year or whatever, I wouldn't surprise me the least bit if they, like, we're going to do, like, a quasi-artsy animated Batman movie going to theaters in 3 to 5 years.
Oh yeah, going to the theaters, I could definitely see that. Even just for the DCU ones, it would be kind of cool if they did just kind of, just try that old style. I feel like it's one of those ones like nobody's probably going to do it because probably the only way to get that exact look would be to have to do it old school. One of those ones. But even if they kind of did it where, like, hell, just have Batman and all the characters kind of in that look. But just the old school one. Because even, like, like the Batman and Harley Quinn one that kind of is supposed to be kind of in that similar style, well, they still kind of go towards the second, version. It's like one of those ones, like,
yeah.
Nobody ever goes back to the first version. And just, like, that kind of look where Batman's in the blue suit, the characters, even if they have, maybe it's just, like, that weird thing that, like, maybe they just almost had to get away from the Tim Burton look, because maybe Tim Burton had some weird kind of copyright lock on it and so on that nobody ever seems to bring up. They never bring that up in the interviews, but maybe there's something like that.
I don't know. I remember the name of the lady who actually made the Batman animated score, which, don't get me wrong, the Danny Elfman score is really good. Was it like Tim Burton or Danny Elfman who was just like, hey, we want to use your music for the cartoon. Fuck the cartoon! Just like, you get paid. Oh, how much? Oh, fuck yeah. It was one of them, which was kind of like, dude, real talk, the cartoon's way better than both your fucking movies.
Yeah, I know it was one of them. I almost want to say it was Danny Elfman, actually, because I almost remember, like, he said that, like, on a special feature or something like that somewhere. And he's just like, yeah, fucking cartoon. And then it's like, oh, shit, well, I guess we'll make the cartoons songs for everything.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, it sounds weird for Danny Elfman to say, because he did the fucking Simpsons one. By that point, you would have thought that, like...
Maybe he was like, I'm on to bigger things, and I'm doing Batman. I did the Batman movie. I'm not because he was in Oingo Boingo, and then he went on to do like other movies. He did like other stuff, and then maybe it wasn't Danny Elfman. Maybe it was Tim Burton. I don't know. Tim Burton, I'll be honest. Even though he's very talented, he's kind of, whenever I hear him in interviews, especially from like that period, I guess you probably would have an ego at that point, but from like the 90s, like he came across as like such a pompous prick whenever you like hear an interview with him,
Yeah, he really has that very, like, I'm a pretentious, like, art school director. Like, you know what I mean? He's almost, like, realistically, if you were a director next to fucking Tim Burton, he'd be that guy, you'd be like, fuck that guy. Especially probably if you're in class with that kind of guy, like, back in the day. That would probably be the guy that you're like, this guy's a fucking jackwagon. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody fucking likes him. Like, I can just sort of picture people that we've sort of known throughout time where you see, like, those other people that are just like, God, that guy's so fucking artsy and douchey. I feel like he probably would have fit into that category. Granted, Tim Burton does have some really good movies, so I'm not denying that part.
Oh, no.
But
he definitely does, and if his name's on something, I am interested. I mean, maybe I don't always go see it, maybe it's not always good, but I'm always interested if his name's on something. But he, in an earlier point, understandable. I think if you are that young and you are moving up the ranks that fast, you are probably like get a little bit of an ego, so understandable. But I just know, I think he or somebody was very dismissive about, Batman cartoon. And I want to say they even said something like when they were like gave Mark Hamill some notes to read for Joker, they just had like written down on the script like, don't do Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. And that's why I always think that the animation style did change, is that they just wanted to get as far away from sort of those movies as possible, in a sense. Like, I think as I kind of realized, like, shit, we're doing sort of our own thing here. In the long run, we don't want to be tied to that, in a sense, and be, like, kind of stuck with that, maybe. Maybe that's what it's kind of going with, but...
Because even Penguin looks sort of like everything else looked mostly separate, except, like, Selena Kyle had blonde hair, and Penguin looked a little bit more like Danny DeVito, kind of.
Yeah, because he had, like, kind of like the flipper hands.
3 fingers, yeah.
Yeah, and there was like, well, it's really not, there's really not that much beyond, like, I guess you would say Batman Returns, yeah, and the theme, but the theme's always there, and it's kind of one of those ones that's like, that's about the only two. There's really just like 2 things that are kind of like the movie, and the rest of it's not. So it's kind of like weird when they kind of did all those changes and got rid of the Joker's eyes and made Selena Kyle just super simple. And there's a few characters that I think they actually make them look kind of better, but I can't remember who they are off the top of my head. But
I think Scarecrow looks better.
Can't remember. Yeah, he's got an interesting look.
He's like wearing a trench coat. He has this big long ass hat. And
that's right.
His face looks more like a sack, and you kind of see like these jagged ass teeth from like an opening in the sack. And the Scarecrow looks pretty creepy. He's not in very many episodes, but he looks creepy.
That's right. That is a cool one.
Joker he looked interesting. I liked original Joker more, but I still like this Joker.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, for the most part, other than, like, I guess probably even Catwoman, none of them really look bad. It's just, I think sometimes, like, it's like sort of like Poison Ivy, I think looks better in the original one.
I think Freeze looks better in the second version.
Yeah, well, Freeze looks pretty good in the first one, but yeah, I know what you mean there too.
Yeah.
But because I can't remember, like, I know that we're getting sort of off topic, but like, okay, in the Batman and Mr. Freeze movie, did that movie have the original animation style?
It was original animation. That was leading in to the new series.
That's right, because that was like the one that, like, I think it's like one of the ones that came out like after the series, I almost want to say, but I think they had it kind of like put together before they did the new animation, like, in a weird way. Because for some reason when I was watching, I was like, when we were watching Batman Mystery of Batwoman, I was like, oh, this one has the original style. Because like on the Blu-ray cover, it pretty much has Batman drawn like that style. And then it's like, oh, no, it's not that. It's just for some reason the cover has that look. Like, whoever's putting the cover together just didn't get the memo. Oh, we changed the animation about 6 years ago.
Actually, I think that I think it's sort of a hybrid now that I'm thinking back on it. Because I want to say the cut, like, art style wise, I want to say it looked more like the original, but then coloring and line work for some reason, not line work, but I guess coloring, it looks a little bit more like leading into the new thing. That's the way I remember it, at least, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 'cause it's definitely got more like kind of like the blacks and so on.
Broader. It's a lot more
not
broader.
The blue outfit. But,
a lot more broader, and the old one, it looked kind of, even when it first came out, it had kind of a faded look, sort of, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, Batman, nothing but good times with Batman, Mystery of Batwoman. For this Batman Day, you better go out and check this one if you can find it. If you're lucky enough to go find it, but totally worth having for any DC collection. Don't matter who you are. It's a great fucking film. I'd hold it in high regards. I think it's one of those ones, if you want to put it in like the DCU, I think it's at like a little bit closer to the top tier type ones. I like it quite a bit. Beginning to end, it's really good.
Really solid, really good movie. Can't really find anything to complain about.
Yeah. But, yeah, more Batman good times be had, as always. But till then, you can go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys, animations, catch up on some drunk Batman there. And, yeah, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks again for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Sure, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, animation, and a whole lot more. We also have the Old Man Orange blog going with all kinds of fun stuff. If you easily want to support the show, use one of our Amazon links either on the website or in the description of the podcast below. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show either on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Newgrounds, or anywhere else that you seem to get this podcast from. Grab the sitcom-styled comic book Pizza Boys on either Comic Central, Comixology, or Amazon. Want more podcasts? Check out the Indie Comics Club over at Comic Central. I also got a workout website called Thor's Hidden Gym, filled with fitness tips and tricks, videos, and a whole lot more fun stuff in the calisthenics world. Talk to us on Twitter, at Spencer S. Holmes and Dunnigan Ryan. Like our Facebook pages of Old Man Orange Productions and Pizza Boys Comic. Thanks again, we're out of here.